So the whole view of Africa was seen as barbaric, and that has always, even until this moment right now, been a foundational narrative for racism. So although there might be some people who say, what the hell has George Floyd's killing got to do with the way that I view Africa? And I would say a hell of a lot. I am so excited to be finally starting this YouTube channel. So I'm currently in the Gambia, West Africa, which is now the place that I live. It's also quite strange because of some of the things that are going on in my personal life, which I'm not going to go into right now, but it may kind of unfold in subsequent videos. But just to be here and to know that I've made that step and I'm finally building a foundation for myself and my children here is just a huge blessing that I want to be acknowledging every day and sharing with as many people from the diaspora as possible. And one of the main reasons for that is because one of the thoughts that I have almost every day is, why didn't I do this sooner? Like, seriously. I feel that the things that have opened up in just the 12 weeks since I've been here are just insane in terms of what could be done in 12 months. There's a lot more that's happened in 12 weeks than has happened in 12 months in other environments, and the possibilities here are endless for people who have energy, are already doing things, already quite active, already quite ambitious. If you are, whatever you build, if you're building in the UK, times that by 10. Because that's what's going to be able to happen when you are here, because the whole dynamics have changed. The playing field is completely different, and that's something that I want to expose you guys to, and just shed another light on what Africa is and what the opportunities are for people in the West, so just descendants of Africans. But what I really want to start with right now is what has prompted me to just really decide, let me just sit down and do this, is the times that we are in right now. So with everything that's happened over the last month or so with the George Floyd killing and Black Lives Matter, this question of the identity of Black people within the diaspora and the struggles and the way forward, is hot topic. And one of the things, or one of the conversations I've been having, especially with people here, people from the US, people from the Caribbean, and also local native Gambians, is what does Black Lives Matter actually mean in the context of Africa? And there are many layers that we can really ask that question. The first layer, for me, or the most important layer, is if we're talking about Black Lives Matter, we really do have to question how we are seen on the global stage. So it's easy to kind of scream, Black Lives Matter, we're about empowerment, we're about moving ourselves forward, but I think it's so important to realise that the setup of racism and the narrative that upholds racism has always been rooted in the inferiority of African people. So when the white man, and when I say the white man, I'm not talking about Joe from down the road, he's cool. When the white man came to Africa and enslaved our ancestors, one of the main justifications for that was something called the civilizing mission, which was the idea that Black and brown people are inferior to the supreme white people, and therefore they are doing them a favor by subjecting them to slavery because they needed to be civilized. So the whole view of Africa was seen as barbaric, and that has always, even until this moment right now, been a foundational narrative for racism. So although there might be some people who say, what the hell has George Floyd's killing got to do with the way that I view Africa? And I would say a hell of a lot. Because one of the things, and racism and the systemic racism, because that's what it really is, it's a system, is very, very intricate. And it's made up of many narratives, many economic constraints, many legal constraints, but they are all held by narratives, because that's what gives it power, that's what gives it legitimacy, that's what gives it life. So when we consider how we continue to view Africa to this day, it says a lot about how we continue to view African descendants and their lives, which is why we're in a point where we're having to scream Black Lives Matter and try and reintroduce the world to that notion. But what it shows is that in the West, Black lives, and not just in the West, but Black lives on a global stage are still seen as inferior to the white or Western counterparts. So I think it's really, really important as Black people to consider how we teach people to treat us, because that's what we do. We teach people how they treat us. And this isn't about victim blaming and saying that if we get shot and we get killed, it's because we're teaching them to treat us like shit. No, I'm not trying to victim blame in that sense. All I'm trying to say is that it is equally important, while we are calling out the racism and the oppression, to also start to take back our narrative simultaneously. So it's not about one or the other, victim blaming or accusation. It's about acknowledging that both sides need a shift, externally and internally. So for me, being here in Africa and experiencing this has been quite different. So over the years, when police killings have happened, whether it's been in the UK, it's Mark Duggan, or Tamir Rice or Michael Brown in the US, there has always been a ricochet effect that I felt deeply. And this, in a sense, is no different to the fact that, of course, I still feel it deeply to some level, but it just wasn't the same this time round being here. And it's very strange to try and articulate. And it's not because I'm distant and I'm no longer in the West, so I'm like, oh, it doesn't affect me anymore, because I'm a compassionate being and I understand the global context that we exist in. But my eyes have opened up to a possibility where I feel less vulnerable because I'm rooted in a place that is for me. And that's the best way to describe it. It gives you a sense of power that you don't have when you're watching these videos and watching and reading the articles and watching the news videos that you have in the UK. There's a sense of vulnerability and a sense of entrapment and a sense of suffocation. Well, that's my experience. I can't talk for you guys, but that was definitely my experience. But being here gives a sense of calm, a sense of poise, and is bringing me to a place of strategy and hope and change and positive energy. What I do want to say, because this is the first video for this channel, is this is going to be about a lot of things, and it's very, very hard to kind of cover why Africa is such a great place and why I think it's important for all diasporans to have some stake in Africa. I don't think that everybody needs to necessarily go back to Africa, but I think that our attitudes need to change, and we have to really think about if we consider Africa being a viable place to live, and if we don't, why? So I would say if you don't want to go to Africa because you see it as somewhere that doesn't have opportunity or it's less than the UK or whatever, then you probably need to examine that. But if you've been to Africa and you're like, I'm not ready to do it yet, or I don't need to do it, that's different. That's still about agency, and I don't think we should be chased out of somewhere. But I think that it's definitely a good time to think about what we are holding on to in the UK, if you have the option to do so. I know, although I've only been in the Gambia for around 3 months now, this isn't my first time to Africa. I first came to Africa, I visited Tanzania, I think I was 21, so about 7 years ago, and I've been visiting Africa as much as I can since then. I've only been to 4 African countries, so Tanzania, Burkina Faso, Togo, and now Gambia. But I knew for a long time that this is somewhere that I wanted to end up. So being able to do so now and seeing that, wow, honestly, I should have done this when I was 23, 24, because I'd be ahead of the game. But you know, there's no time like the present, and it's better late than never. So really, I just want to go through over the next couple of weeks and just kind of expose you to the lifestyle here, the opportunities here, and also like based on your age, your income, how you bring in an income, what the cost of living is, if you have children, what the benefits are of being here, and childcare, and all of these different things, because I'm telling you, it is going to blow your mind. And even if you don't want to move here, the opportunities to invest and have a stake here are so powerful. When you see and you go to like the tourist area, and it's really sad, and this is why I say there's issues everywhere, is that a lot of the businesses here, especially in the tourist area, are run by Europeans or people from Lebanon or people from China. Basically people with foreign interests who come and they see the potential or the lucrative potential of Africa, and they come here to make money and send it back to wherever their families are. Now, for me, it's so important when we're talking about economic stability and respect and power as African people and African descendants. It's important that we start to invest in those places. So even if you don't have the individual funds to open up your own hotel on the beach in the tourist area in Gambia, maybe 10 people do. You understand? So me looking at the costs here of setting up businesses and having a stake here, a real viable stake, is very, very doable. And over the last couple of weeks in particular, it's almost like been this like really quick domino effect where I have just been bumping into, quite literally, the most phenomenal people and meeting with people that, to the point I'm just like, I feel like we're reaching a tipping point where we can really band together and really start to do something phenomenal. And I just want to point out real quick, in regards to Gambia, what is, I think, going to make this quite special is Gambia is the smallest country in Africa. And it's also pretty underdeveloped, so it's very affordable here. And because it's such a small country, it's actually about the same size as Jamaica, just to give you an idea. It's one of those countries where you can realistically implement change and see that change within your lifetime. There's very few African countries you can say the same for, just because of the mass scale that you would have to do that work on. But because it's so small and bite-sized, there are things that we could implement that will see a very, very significant change within a very short time frame that can then be replicated on some levels once people see that it's done in other places in Africa. So yeah, this is just my first video, and I just want to say I really can't wait to share in my journey and just the environment here and the people and the opportunities, because I want to get as many of you involved as possible in some way, whether you end up wanting to visit, whether you end up wanting to move, or whether you end up just wanting to invest or just share this other viewpoint with other people. So yeah, thank you for watching, and yeah, stay tuned. There is going to be a lot more where this came from.